Hello, welcome back to another edition of the WABA podcast. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram. That's where you can check out all the latest news with this podcast. I'm joined today by Ant. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much.
Good. So we're going to discuss the subject of who we think is going to be the top four come the end of the Premier League season. So what we'll do, Ant, is we'll start from 4 down to 1.
Right.
And if my team's different to your team, we'll have a chat about why you think that team's going to be there and why I think that team's going to be there. All right. So number 4.
Fourth place, Liverpool.
You've got Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Why do you think Liverpool? I've got someone different.
They've hit a bit of a bad run of form, which was always going to happen. I feel a bit sorry for Jurgen Klopp, to be honest, because I think that for the last 2-3 years they've been playing that high intensity football with pretty much the same players, and obviously them players are a little bit tired now. You can see that in the league, and I honestly think that Klopp now will just focus on the Champions League, try and win the Champions League with them. They're not going to catch City. He knows that they're not going to catch City at the top. I don't think anybody is, to be honest. But we'll leave that for later. Liverpool are down. I think they're down in 6th or 5th at the minute, so I fully expect them to get into the top 4 by any means necessary. They've still got the class of Salah, Firmino, Mane. They just have had problems at the back, haven't they? And they've looked vulnerable at the back. I mean, when your goalkeeper's kicking balls out to opposition players, you're always going to struggle. And I just think that they need to have this season, get pre-season, get the likes of Van Dijk back, and then they'll probably be back better than ever next season. But I do think they need to buy a little bit better than what they have been doing, to be honest. Some of the signs, Milamino coming in, not really done it. They need a bit more on the bench, players who can come on. Jota, who did it at the start of the season, he's been injured. He's been a big miss for them. Arguably bigger than Van Dijk, to be honest, because he was absolutely flying. But yeah, they seem to have fallen off the rails a little bit, and I just think it's down to tiredness. I don't think anything's changed with them. I think it's just they're tired, probably mentally more than anything else. So I think they'll finish 4th anyway.
You think 4th? See, I didn't put Liverpool as number 4.
No.
Something tells me they're not going to finish in the top 4 this season. I don't know why. Just I don't think they are. I mean, I was reading the other day that apparently they're looking at Nick Pope. So that makes me wonder, is anything going on with Alisson? I don't know. It's just weird. Like, he's made 2 clangers, hasn't he, recently? So
by 3, because he made 2 in one game against City, and then last week against Leicester. Sorry, he come out and tried to clean his own defender out and ended up losing the ball. So it's. I think they'll end up in it. I think the quality of the forward line will be good enough for them to be in the top 4.
So
at the expense of who, I'm not sure.
So we've got Liverpool for you at 4. For me, I've got Leicester.
Leicester.
I think Leicester, they've got a lot of young players like Barnes, Maddison, Fofana, and I think that they've got a lot of momentum going on their side at the moment. I've just got a weird feeling they're going to finish in the top 4. Obviously, at the moment, the joint with points with Man United at time of recording this anyway. So like, I don't think they're going to slow down. They don't look to me like they're going to slow down. I don't feel like they've hit a bad patch as per Liverpool have. I think Brendan Rodgers is doing a fantastic job there, to be honest. Like, I think he's building a team for the future.
Oh yeah, I'd love to ask Arsenal fans when they were linked with Rodgers, and they were like, "Oh no, would you take him now?" Because he's been superb. Leicester are fantastic. I've actually got Leicester outside the top 4 just for injury purposes. Recently they've fallen off a little bit. I know they beat Liverpool at the weekend, but Liverpool up until Leicester's first goal were by far the better team, and it took a clamour for them to go ahead. Once they went ahead, they were brilliant, but injuries, I think if they get 2 or 3 serious, injuries to good players, they'll struggle. And that's my issue with Leicester. Still a long way to go. I think they'll end up and they've still got the Europa League that they're in. That'll end up, they'll get tired with that. So it'll be strange. I think it'll be an interesting one, but they've been fantastic. I'll agree with you there. I mean, absolutely superb.
Do you think they haven't got enough depth in the team to cope with the?
They did it last season, didn't they? I think it was last season or season before when they were third or second, and then dropped like stone, and they ended up not being in European football. I think it was the season before actually, and they ended up not qualifying for Europe. That's how bad it went down. That's how downhill it went, and you can see that with them because they play such that high energy football that they'll probably fall off. I hope they don't, because I actually quite like Leicester. I think they're a great side, and they're probably the best side to watch if bar Man City. Probably the best side to watch if you're watching a live game. They're excellent, and play some really, really good football.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that we discussed this a couple of weeks back? Do you think James Justin's a miss for them?
He will be, yeah, he's fantastic.
He's out for the season now, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, they've got he got injured playing out of position, hasn't he? And they've got Castagna to come back, who's a left back, and Ricardo Pereira's just come back, so they'll not miss him as much, I don't think. He's a huge loss for them. I mean, I had him in my fantasy team, and he's a massive loss for me. So, I was gutted for that, to be honest. But, I'm more worried when Vardy doesn't play for Leicester, because Iheanacho is just not as good. Yeah. Jose Perez probably isn't a striker, more of an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
So I would worry if, like Vardy or Maddison, because Maddison's been getting most of the goals, been teamed with the mantle, hasn't he, when Vardy's been injured. So I'd be more worried about that, really. And they haven't really got anyone else to come in off the bench for them to replace them. So, they might get lucky with injuries, but if they get 1 or 2, it would be very, very, very interesting to see.
To be fair, you're right there with the forward line. They really only have Vardy, who is an out-and-out goal scorer. And Iheanacho, yeah, I agree with that. Like, he's not going to get you 20, 25, 30 goals a season. I mean, if you look at Vardy, 34 years old, and he's still banging them in, he probably still could do a job for England as well. So, but he's retired, isn't he, from the England setup, as far as I'm aware?
Yeah, he has. Vardy has. Yeah, he retired a few years ago. I think it was just after they won the league. To preserve his career at Leicester, which he's been fantastic, hasn't he?
Which has been a good move, and I think Ricardo Pereira coming back for them as well. I think on his day he's one of the best right backs in the league, if not the world. Ricardo Pereira, he's just a fantastic talent, and I think when he got injured, they start hitting the skids a little bit, because I think they do miss him as an attacking threat on the right.
Yeah.
That's just, again, opinions of my own on this podcast. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of Ricardo Pereira. As you'll see, I put him in my dream team. I do start thinking he'll get goals and assists as well, for us, to be honest. But that's just the dream team anyway. Who you got at number 3 anyway?
3, I've gone for the recently rejuvenated Chelsea. I think Tuchel's done fantastic since he's come in. He's shored them up defensively. He's getting the best out of Abraham and Giroud. And I believe, give him 2 or 3 months, he'll have the best out of Havertz, Werner. Pulisic will get a new lease of life under him, I think, once he's fit. I genuinely think, once they signed him, I was like, no, not really. But he's done really, really well. He speaks really well as well after the games and stuff. But listen, Frank Lampard should have done a lot better with that side. And everyone's saying, it was harsh sacking, but they've spent an absolute fortune this season on signing, Mendy and Werner, Havertz, and it hasn't quite worked. But the way they're playing recently, I really can't see them not finishing in that top 4. It was hard, I really wanted to put Leicester in, because I love the way Leicester play, but I just think they'll fall off with the injuries. And I think if Chelsea will benefit from that. And the one thing you've got to worry as well, though, with Chelsea is they've got the Champions League as well, but they seem to have more of a squad than the like of Leicester. I mean, Chelsea have got, on the recent game when they played Newcastle, they brought Giroud on for Abraham. Giroud goes and scores with his first touch, and then that's a fantastic sub to have on, isn't it? Olivier Giroud, superb.
With Giroud, I always wonder why Arsenal didn't want to keep him. Like,
Yeah, I know.
I think
Yeah,
he's an impact player. He's the kind of player you need in your team. Why didn't want to keep him? Like,
yeah. I mean, he's quite similar to, like I said, isn't he? Because they're both like goal scoring types of strikers. But
yeah,
yeah, Giroud seems to have. He just seems to be around forever, Giroud, isn't he? Like he seems to just always like come in with a goal or an assist or whatever. Really, I mean, he's a very underrated player. Actually, I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's old or whatever, and he's not really. He's only 34. It's not too old, is it?
no, no,
He'll
true.
still got a couple of seasons left in him, and he still guarantees 15 goals a season, which isn't too bad, is it?
Most of his appearances realistically do come off the bench as well nowadays. Like, they try to Chelsea, for example, try to put a lot of faith in Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham and stuff. And Giroud's kind of like he's the guy in the shadows, but like he's at present he's probably the striker that's performing the best.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
but
probably
I
is.
also had Chelsea in as well. At third, I think they look rejuvenated under Tuchel. I think what comes down to it, a lot of ways when you look at how they're playing now and how rejuvenated they look and how good they look on the break. Um, Tuchel's got them playing to the style that the team needs to play, and maybe that's where the experience factor of Tuchel versus Lampard has came into play. Like,
Oh yeah, that's 100%, isn't it? That's 100% why they really should have gone for. I can understand the stuff for Lampard, and so it was like a fairy tale for Lampard and stuff. But if I was a top four side and getting a lad who's just cut his teeth, but fair enough, he's a club legend, but a lad who's just cut his teeth at Derby, and it was a strange one for me. I think it was a cheap one, and it was a strange one. And Tuchel's come in and done very well since he started.
I remember a couple of weeks ago we said Tuchel's going to be a quick fix. Do you still stand by that?
I still think it will be. I don't think it'll last too long. I think long term for Chelsea, it's hard to say actually a manager who will come in and do as well as what Tuchel has actually done. So I still think it'll only be the 18-month kind of thing with what Tuchel kind of does, isn't it? He goes into clubs, quick fix and then off he goes. But yeah, I can't see it being any longer than 18 months, to be honest. I think it'll be maybe see this season out, maybe have next season, see where they are, and then they'll. Roman Abramovich, he's got a big trigger finger, hasn't he? So I'm sure you'll not last too long.
Here's a question for you then. Do you think Mendy's going to remain in goal, or do you think he's going to go with Kepa?
I mean, it's got to be, for me. It's got to be Mendy. I can understand why they played Kepa the other night. They're playing. I don't want to be too harsh on Newcastle, but they're playing Newcastle side without their best striker, with Callum Wilson being injured. So it was nice to see Kepa keep a clean sheet. I mean, what else has gone on with Kepa? I mean, he's flopped, hasn't he, at Chelsea? He's not been great, but it was nice to see him get a clean sheet and everything like that. But
Yeah.
Mendy's one of the best keepers in the world. If anyone worth the salt's going to pick Mendy over Kepa, to be honest.
Well, they just looked more resolute at the back as soon as they brought in Kepa. To be quite, not Kepa, Mendy. Apologies. Like they just look more resolute at the back. Like to me, with Kepa, it just looks like he's gonna like lose the plot at any second.
Yeah,
Um, but we'll see what happens. Like Kepa's the kind of player which Tuchel would like to work with. He's young, he can mould him the way he wants him to be moulded. So I don't know. I think it'd be very like Mendy would feel very hard done by if Kepa regains number one spot, playing only a handful of games. But
I
we'll
think it
see.
would alienate a lot of Chelsea fans if they were to have Kepa in goal and ahead of Mendy, who's one of the world's best for me.
Big fan of him, like, are you?
Yeah, I think he's excellent. Yeah, you just look at Chelsea since he's come. He's kept a lot of clean sheets. He's done really well, and they look a bit more strong at the back. I mean, I do think as much as I've just kind of hammered Lampard for when he brought Thiago in, but he left Rudiger out, and Rudiger's come in since Tuchel's come in. Rudiger's been fantastic, and you look at how solid Chelsea have been since Rudiger's come back. Rudiger is by far and away better than Thiago Silva. I mean, Thiago Silva's quite old now, isn't he? For professional, and he's getting a little bit, but he's done well. And I just think Rudiger's a bit more solid than Zuma. Zuma's a decent defender. You know, good to be at Chelsea a long time, but he's got that mistake in him, hasn't he? And yeah, it's nice to see really get back. To be honest, he's a good player.
Do you think he's their best defender?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And do you think the German connection's going to help them?
Yeah, best centre half anyway.
Yeah. Do you think the German connection's going to help them?
Yeah, of course it will. Yeah. I think eventually, like I say, long term, I think you'll see him get the best out of Werner and Havertz. I mean, Werner scored the other night, so that's good for him. You know, hopefully trying to prove me wrong if he's listened to this podcast. Calling him worse than shit the other podcast, but I'm always happy to be proved wrong.
Fair dues, man. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing, you know. But I had Chelsea as well, at third as well, and I feel like you're going to have the same number 2 that I have as well. Man United.
Yeah, I think we're going to have the same number 1 as well, Gary, to be honest.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've got Sheffield United for number 1.
I bet you have. Yeah, upside down. Yeah. Number two is Man United. I will say, I think Ole has done absolutely brilliantly this season with them. Considering, you know, last season they were like, you know, Ole out and all this stuff. And, you know, listen, the thing is with managers, and it might kind of backtrack to what I said about Lampard, but you've got to give them time.
Yeah.
You know, I can understand why Chelsea got rid of Lampard. I could probably understand if this time last year Man United got rid of Ole. But this season, I mean, the away form that they've got is unbelievable. I mean, like, they've won nearly every away game this season. It's absolutely fantastic. If he can sort that home form out and turn them into a little bit more of a force at home, which, you know, this is me saying about Man United aren't playing very well at Old Trafford. It's mad. But, I mean, they've got one of the best players in the world in Bruno Fernandes. I mean, what a player he is. What a signing he's been, man, since January last year. I mean, you've got to say he's probably been involved in, 80-90% of Man United's goals since he signed.
I was reading the other day as well.
It'll be a high value. It'll be a high value, whatever it is. I mean, he's, you know, and especially this season, I think Cavani's been a very astute signing. You know, he's come in and done a job whenever he's had to. Yeah. Rashford's been getting the best out of Rashford. The defence is still all over the place, but recently it's kind of shown a little bit more stability. You know, yeah, I think, you know, a really, really good job when you look at the squads around in the top, you know, the top 8, top 9. You look at Tottenham, who were nowhere near Liverpool, who were sliding out. I mean, Man United probably haven't got as good a squad as Liverpool and Spurs, and, you know, they're second in the league, so they have done very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that before. I was reading the other day that some of the Sporting fans believe that Bruno Fernandes was holding the team back.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell him and Ole probably don't see eye to eye. And apparently they had an argument earlier on this season about something or other. But listen, I mean, you don't have to get on with your best players, but you just have to play them. Let them do what they have to do. I mean, he has been tremendous. He's probably the best ever January transfer. You know, considering how much money he cost, he's probably repaid and doubled that since he signed. I mean, he scored. We're recording on a Thursday night. He scored another 2 goals tonight. He's just fantastic. You know, he's an absolutely fantastic player. And probably will go for a lot of money. You know, whenever they get rid of him, he'll go for a lot of money. So it's a really good signing for them. And like I say, they've got the best out of Rashford this season. I think he's been very good. You know, underrated player for Man United is Scott McTominay.
I knew you were going to say that. Well this season. I knew you were going to say that because I was going to say that.
You know what though? If Man United got rid of Pogba at the end of the season, you wouldn't really be bothered, would you? Whereas last year when they were like, "Oh, Pogba wants to leave," it would have been huge. But now, I mean, Emmanuel probably tried to get a relatively decent profit for him.
Yeah,
that can go on long-term centre forward, you know, like a really good, proven quality centre forward of good age. You know, as much as I say Cavani's done well, he's not going to last 2, 3, 4 years, is he? You know, so they could get that, and they could probably show the defence up a little bit. So it would probably be in the best interest for Pogba to leave Man United.
I mean, Scott McTominay, just going back to him, I think he's been absolutely class. And like when we obviously talk about our dream team and you put Gundogan in, I was so tempted to put McTominay in, but I can't do that Souček right now. I need Souček in my team. But like he's been fantastic, and Scotland as well. McTominay and McGinn. That's a kind of good midfield pairing, really, on paper.
Yeah,
Like, and I can't remember the last time Scotland had two midfielders who are brilliant box to box players and can score goals as well as pass the ball around fantastically well.
yeah, yeah. I'm not even going to think back. I don't watch much Scotland.
Well, to be fair,
Yeah,
neither
but
do
yeah,
I. But
right.
so
Yeah, he has been probably one of the underrated players of the season. To be honest, because he bangs in a few goals as well for them. He's done very well.
uh,
You know, he's only young, so he'll only get better.
Luke Shaw as well, like completely rejuvenated. Like he's
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
class
he
at
has been
fullback.
very good this season. Him and Wan-Bissaka, I think, are fantastic. Not very good defensively, but they're good going forward.
Uh,
And I mean, Luke Shaw's always been a good player. He's had bad injuries and he's had weird issues or whatever, but he does. Pardon me, he does look a lot fitter this season. And just man, you need another centre half to play with Maguire because Maguire's, Maguire can be one of the world's best defenders one week and then Sunday league level the next. He's inconsistency. And if I was, you know what, and this is probably going to be very kind of controversial, but I would probably get rid of De Gea if I was Man United because he's not brave enough anymore. To hear he doesn't get down to shots as much as what he used to. He's still got these mistakes in him, and with Henderson in the reserves and on the bench, they've got a ready-made replacement for him. So they're going to be looking to get 60 million for De Gea, and then they don't need to buy another goalkeeper because they've got Henderson. So it's like that would free up loads of cash for them. So, and I personally think Henderson will probably be better than De Gea in a couple of years anyway.
I think you make a
Why?
good. I think you
No?
make a good point with that. Like I think Dean Henderson's too good to sit on the bench. And
Oh yeah,
I thought even to be quite honest, Sam Johnstone was a really good backup goalkeeper. And if you look at Sam Johnstone for West Brom, he's a good keeper. Granted, they're not playing fantastically well. I mean, they look a bit better under Sam because Sam
yeah,
he works from the back. But they've always had good keepers, Man United, and Dean Henderson could easily slot in that number one slot if they sold to here to say, for example, Real Madrid.
yeah.
But he's one for you. If you think that Man United need a centre back, um, one, what's the problem with Lindelof and Bailey? And two, who would you sign?
But to be fair, Bailey Bay or however you pronounce it, he's always injured. That's his problem. Lindelof, it's consistency. So it's the same with Maguire. It's just got to be more consistent. They've got to be. They've got to be more consistent. In they just kind of make these silly errors all the time, and it has cost them a couple of times this season. So it's. I mean, yeah, for me, I don't particularly rate Lindelof. I think Bayer's a good player, but he always gets this knock, doesn't he? He always gets to struggle with a knock or something, or he gets quite a serious injury. But last time he did his knee, didn't he, a few years ago? And he hasn't probably been the same since. Once you do your knee ligaments, that's probably it. You look at Mendy at City when he did his knee, and he's come back. He's not the same player. So centre halves for United. I mean, I would have probably went at the start of the season. John Stones from City, but he's been on fire for City, so they'll obviously not sell them United. So I'm not too sure, to be honest. I would probably bring someone with a bit of experience in, not just a young lad. So I'll try and get one out the bag for you. I'll probably say look at someone like John Stones, but no one sign John Stones.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. I think you're right with experience. I think if Man United were to need another like a second centre back, would they go for experience or would they go for a kid? If they're going to go for a kid, they're most likely going to go for someone at Real Madrid like Eden Militao. If they want someone
Yeah,
experience, someone who's kind of in a way approaching the later years of his career, I could honestly see them going for someone like Matt Hummels.
yeah, I'm not
He's been long
too
linked
bad.
with the Premier League, long linked with the Premier League. I could see that happening.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they probably should have gone for Ruben Diaz,
Nah,
but
he's been great and absolutely
he obviously went to
fantastic.
the rivals down the road. Yeah, Hummels is a good shout, I would say. Yeah, that's
If they're going to
probably a
go
good
for an
one.
experienced centre back, I'd say Hummels could potentially make like look at a Premier League move. But in all honesty, I think when his time's up and he's not at the pace in the German leagues, I can see him either going to China or I can see him going to America. Wouldn't surprise me
Yeah,
if he went to play for Beckham's team, if I'm being honest with you. But aye. But we'll move on to number one. Same number one as
yeah.
me, Man City.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fantastic. I mean, so fun. I mean, I love City. I love Pep. I love Manchester City are probably my, well, I wouldn't say that they're my second favourite team, but my favourite team to watch in England. Probably Barcelona and my favourite team to watch in England. I just love what Pep does. I just love his football. I love the way they play. He's done so well with this season because what was going on with them last season was they were leaking in too many goals. So he signs Ruben Diaz, who's been tremendous. Laporte got injured, so John Stones has come in, done a fantastic job. Cancelo, is it Cancelo the right back?
João Cancelo, yeah.
Yeah, done superb. The left back, Zinchenko's just come back. He's been superb. They've got players all over the pitch who were fantastic. And you look at it as well, though, they share the goals out, which is great. You look at, we've just discussed Leicester without Vardy, where they're going to get a goal. Man United, probably without Bruno Fernandes, you would probably say maybe Rashford. Liverpool without Salah, there's only Mane, really, who can, guarantee your goals. City they've got the top goal scorer is a midfielder in Gundogan, who's been superb this season, by the way, absolutely magnificent. And then they've got Raheem Sterling, who's scoring goals, Phil Foden, who's scoring goals, Ferran Torres, who doesn't play much, is scoring goals, Riyad Mahrez. There's so many of those players who'll probably hit 10, 11 goals this season, and that's what you need. You need to share the load out, and they've done that. They've done that fantastically. I mean, they're just blowing teams away as well. I mean, I fancy City this year for the Champions League. Just based on that, they can blow teams away and they can get goals from anywhere. And you look at the last 6 weeks, they've been fantastic without Kevin De Bruyne. They haven't missed Kevin De Bruyne, and now he's come back. This is going to be even better. Aguero is due back, so he'll probably get a few goals before the end of the season. I fancy City. You know what? They might do it all this season, to be honest. I know Pep will be like, absolutely not. But I kind of think of a better team, certainly a better team in England than them, and I'm hard pressed to find a better team in Europe at the minute.
Question for you then. If they do it all, like you say, do you think Pep will leave in the summer?
No.
You think he'll stick it out?
No, I don't think Pep will leave City for a while. I think Pep will do. Pep's found where he wants to be in City, and I know he's always, I'll retire when I'm this age, I'll do this when I'm like, he can go and get paid where he can stay at City and get paid whatever he wants. They'll give him whatever he wants. They've got the vast fortune to sign whoever he wants to sign. I know they had this issue with the when they got bad at the Champions League with the illegal signings, but that's all gone now. That's all done, so they can do whatever they want, really. And I think the sky's the limit with him in City, even though he's done so well with them anyway. He will stay at City until they win the Champions League, and you know what, it might be this season, but I just think he'll be there for a long time. He'll want to finish whatever he wants to do. He'll look at the like of Phil Foden and how carefully he's been with Phil Foden by not sending him out on loan, bringing him in and drip feeding him into the side. And now look at him now; he's probably one of the first names on his team sheet.
Yeah, I mean,
he'll probably want to finish his project with players like that, I think.
I mean, Phil Foden has been fantastic for them.
Do it again, you know what I mean? Start afresh and do it again.
Yeah.
They're a great side.
He's been class, and a keeper, which to me, Edison, I don't think he does much, but he's solid and he's resolute. And if he was to get injured, they've got Zach Steffen who could come in. There seems to be a lot of depth in that team, and they're in a position now where I think, like yourself, they could go on and win the Champions League. They look good on the break. They look good going forward. And they're doing all this as well without Sergio Aguero.
Yeah.
And Kevin De Bruyne as such.
I think he'll be gone at the end of the season.
I do. I think he'll end up leaving.
His contract runs out. I love Aguero. He's been brilliant But I think he'll probably find his way out, and they'll obviously look at Jesus or maybe sign. They're on about signing Haaland, aren't they, from Dortmund? I mean, can you imagine that next season? You know, it'll be unbelievable.
Well, he's an absolute pocket rocket, him, isn't he, Erling Haaland? Like, he's going to be one of the world's best strikers. Like, he just looks insane. And that I was going to lead into that there. If Aguero goes, who do they get for a forward? Because they will make a big money forward move.
Yeah.
You think Haaland?
100%. Yeah. I can imagine him at City.
See, I don't know. I really don't know if I can see him at City.
I can definitely see him at City.
The connections are there, aren't they?
Sterling, Haaland, Foden, Mahrez, Torres. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Can you imagine that? It'll be unbelievable.
And his dad has connections to City.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I feel like it could be a bidding war for him. Apparently, they weren't expecting him to stay at Dortmund too long. It was just kind of just get used to European football, but see what happens with that, I guess. But top four then you've got Liverpool, Chelsea, United, City.
Yeah.
And I've got Leicester, Chelsea, United, and City.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with Leicester. I've got to stick with Leicester.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised, Gary, that you never snuck West Ham in there, considering your love for the likes of Souček and I want to say David Moyes, but you know.
Nah, not for Moyes. I like Souček. I like Koufal. I do like. You know what? I do actually like watching West Ham play because I like watching Bowen play. Koufal. I think Koufal and Souček have just been two class signings for them. Ben Rama, absolutely class signing. Declan Rice, like they've got some really good players in the team, and like it is like I do think it's good to see them doing well, like especially when you know they're in the London Stadium as well. Granted, there's no fans at football at the moment, but I think like their revenue would have been through the roof the way they're playing it if COVID wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I agree with that, and they've done well. I think they'll end up finishing outside the top six, though. I think Tottenham will get in, and I think Leicester will get in.
I mean, I said at the beginning of the season when I saw Spurs play, I thought Spurs would win the league, but I don't know what's happened there. They've completely dropped off.
Need to get rid of the manager.
You reckon?
Need to get rid of the manager. He doesn't suit. You know, I know we're probably going off topic, but he doesn't suit Spurs and the way Spurs want to play. You know, you can imagine being Harry Kane in that side. I wouldn't be happy at all, to be honest, because they're not. And he's still scoring loads of goals, but they're not providing them.
So who do you get then?
Pardon?
Who do you get then if you get rid of Jose?
Well, I would never have. And we've had these conversations, you know, privately, haven't we? But I would never ever have got rid of shit, I can't remember his name, Gary.
Poch.
So he was getting Pochettino, yeah. I would never have got rid of Pochettino. I would never have done that. I thought it was a massive mistake. I still stand by that it was a massive mistake. I think in long term, Pochettino will probably be more successful than Mourinho in 5 years. And I really didn't understand that to begin with. I still don't understand it now. I just think Mourinho, it's his way or the highway, which is a problem, I think. And he's turned Spurs, who were a very good and attractive football side, into quite a boring team, and it's a little bit sad, to be honest.
We have different opinions on Poch. I do think Poch is a really good manager. I just think that his time was did at Spurs. I'm not saying Jose was the right man for the job. I thought that Poch his time was up at Spurs. He should have went to Man United, but you know, can't diss Ole. Like Ole has done a brilliant job. So, but yeah. So top four, we've both got Man City as winners then.
Yeah. It'll be by a long way as well.
I think it will be.
The only thing that will stop City is if they start doing very well in Champions League and he'll start. But that's the problem. I mean, he can probably put a reserve team out that'll be better than majority of the Premier League. It's mental how good they are and how good players they've got. You know, they've got like the likes of Mendy, who's not getting the game as much. Laporte isn't starting. It's Diaz and Stones. It's just crazy.
And Laporte,
absolutely crazy. Mahrez doesn't get much of a game. He walk in any other team in the league.
Yeah,
it's such an embarrassment of riches for them.
Laporte was their best defender. Ruben Diaz signed as a relative unknown. If you don't know much about Portuguese football, you wouldn't know who Ruben Diaz is. Like, he is an upstart in the Portuguese team, but You know, like he's coming to, for me, Ruben Diaz, John Stones, Laporte. They've got that. They've got that thing where they've got a couple of centre backs who are good players now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll leave it at there then, Ant, and we'll see at the end of the season how our top fours match up. I've got to stick with Leicester. I just think I
Yeah.
think Liverpool's gonna falter a little bit more.
Yeah, fair play, fair enough. And I will say it was hard for me to leave Leicester out.
Aye. Well, you know, honourable mention. But no, cheers for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
No problem.